Today on GRN, Deceit. Where will you see this in the last days? Thank you for joining us again here for another episode of Get Ready News. I'm Mark Lindsted, my brother David Lindsted, and we'd like to look at the news in the light of Bible prophecy.
Yeah, we need a good constant measuring stick, if you will, a bar to compare everything to. And I like to use the Bible because the Bible is that one tool that never changes. I can measure everything against the Bible and know what is truth.
Yeah. Check out this video, and we want you to think about the word deceit as you watch it.
You don't care about this country, and that is unacceptable if you claim to be the President of the United States. So we are here. We are not going anywhere. We are going to continue to fight back, and we are going to continue to speak lies to his truth, to his stealing, and to his cheating.
Wow, they're going to use lies to combat the truth?
It is the most bizarre statement I think I have ever seen. And I don't know if it was a Freudian slip or if it was a misstatement or what she was thinking when she said that. But
you know, there's lots of things biblically in the last days about deceit. I mean, we see in Matthew 24, it talks about people coming, saying they're the Christ. And really interesting thing here is in Matthew 24, it talks about, I think it's verse 24, right here. It says, for there shall rise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, inasmuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect.
yeah, I think that we're moving into that age now.
Yeah.
We have got so many things going on, and we kind of toyed around with a little bit of a rapture forecast, you know,
Yeah.
And looking around the globe, you could see so many people are claiming to be the Messiah. In fact, there's one guy in Israel, I think, that's claiming to be the Messiah.
Well, and then some people were trying to say he was. I haven't heard much out of him lately.
No, I haven't either, but it still goes without saying, there are people that claim to be Jesus, the reincarnation of Jesus around the world. So these videos somehow keep getting into my feed, probably because I watch them. But you know, people with dowsing rods supposedly asking questions of Jesus, and these dowsing rods telling him that, you know, evil's not really bad.
Sure. Well, I've seen so many things of false information going out, and you say, well, okay, it's easy to discern what's false information. Like I saw an article just today. The rocket from SpaceX that has the astronauts from the ISS blew up. No, it didn't.
No.
It was another test rocket,
Right.
of a different series of rocket or something. Had nobody on it, and yes, it did explode. It was a test.
Yeah.
But where do you go for truth?
Exactly. It is very hard to combat misinformation, if you will. Talking about that rocket that blew up, this is the second one, I think, that's blown up in the last year. And before that, people were looking in the sky and seeing that debris and claiming the aliens were coming in.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of hard to know what is the truth out there, what's really happening.
Well, and I see here that the Bible was talking about signs and wonders that would even deceive the elect. But you want to know how sometimes you look at your friends and you say, how can you believe this thing that you're researching? They come to you and say, hey, what do you think about this? I saw this, and this. How do you help them get through that?
You know, that's a very good question. It appalls me, all of the stuff on TikTok and YouTube of all these drive-by theologians.
Yeah.
And the amount of garbage that they are spewing.
Sure.
And you can't possibly fight it all.
But see, what I look at now is when I see a friend of mine who comes up with an idea, or not comes up with an idea, or they bring an idea to me that they've seen online and they ask me about it, and my mind first goes, how can you be deceived by this?
Yeah.
And what I look at is, just the other day, just for fun, I was at a jewelry store having a watch sized. And I saw that they had a whole case of lab-grown diamonds. I didn't realize that business was getting so large. And I did a Google search just to see how much are lab-grown diamonds, how are they different from regular diamonds, and come to find out, you know, they're identical makeup, da-da-da-da. The price is fantastic for these large stones. But what happened then was through AI, every one of my feeds on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, all the advertisements are for lab-grown diamonds.
Yep.
So I can see how if somebody lingers on a subject matter, let's say aliens, for the video,
Yep.
then the algorithm all of a sudden only gives you that information, and then it becomes, wow, everybody's agreeing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's a powerful tool to give you what they call consensus.
Yeah.
So I found this true, like in YouTube. If I go to YouTube and I watch conservative programs, all I get in my feed is people saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as an agency that we try to be fair about things, we try to look for the real news, what really is happening out there, and it's so hard to find because you're given what your itching ears want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that this is part of the deception. Whether you're a conservative or a liberal, whatever side of the track you're on, you're only going to get the view that you're looking for if you want it.
Sure. And I think that this is exactly how, in the last days, that the minds of people are going to be manipulated. And we're going to see people that we thought were solid stone truth being in the position where they think that evil is good and good is evil.
Yeah, and I think that also comes back to putting faith in a man.
Yeah.
Or a woman.
Yeah.
Either way, in mankind, I know several friends that really liked a big time TV evangelist, and he was a very, very smart guy, did some great things, but after he died, some things came up, and that really swayed these people. So it hurt their faith, but at the same time, they're following a man, and whatever he says is gospel.
Yeah.
So there's danger both ways.
Well, and really, you talk about elevation of a man. That's the worst thing that can ever happen. And I can see where people would cast a stone at this man. I think I know who you're talking about. Afterwards, things came out after his death.
Yeah.
And people started really being very judgmental toward him and towards his ministry, and towards those who still want to continue his ministry, because the ministry he was working is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Great apologetics.
Yes.
The truth in the gospel is out there. And here's what I want them to know. If you look at me, don't put me on a pedestal, because if you knew me before Christ really got into the soil of my heart and started digging out those big boulders, the stony ground, and before he started getting rid of the thorns and the thistles that would drowned out the good word of God, I was not a person you should look up to. And so the next thing I look at then is I look at those who are judging all of this, and I think, wait a minute. What was that? Ye without sin?
Throw the first stone.
So we all are needed. We all need the grace. And sometimes I think that as believers, we are short to give grace where God has already given grace.
I agree with that, and I think that too much emphasis is put on a man, and I think when a man gets to be, let's say, like MacArthur or any of these famous guys, that they are bombarded by the devil. So one of the things that my grandfather used to say, and I absolutely love this, is you're not going to find the devil in the bars. You're not going to have the devil in the liquor stores trying to get people to buy drink. They're already doing it.
Yeah, they've
already won them. The devil is playing in the churches, is trying to lead people astray. And I think that a pastor or a teacher or anything like that has to be extra guarded, because I think the devil is trying to find a loose scale in the armor to poke that. And this guy, his ministry was fantastic. What he did was fantastic, but he's a man.
Yeah.
And he has manly problems,
sin. And then not even just talking about the problems that come out afterwards or something like that. I look at some people right now, like there's a man that, in my opinion, began out very, very good in his ministry. And he is now at this top level. They're selling out concerts. His church is packed for every service he has. And he's gone from the truth to 50% truth and 50% motivational speech.
Right.
And in fact, one day he even said, I am God. Because I'm indwelt, so I am God. And I thought, oh, hey. But I think this is a man's pride coming to him. And he thinks that, man, I've been elevated, I've been given a ministry, I'm preaching the truth, and I'm going forward. And I think they get self-absorbed a little bit, or they get in their own circle. I'm sure his circle of friends are just, man, you're so wonderful, you're speaking so great.
You know, I think this comes back to the purpose-driven church.
Yes.
And, you know, some people that I know that are pastors, you know, when they take over a church, the church sets a goal and says, we need to have new people in the seats.
Yeah.
And I want people to understand that God builds the church.
Yes.
It is our responsibility to give the gospel,
Yep.
to bring people to the Lord, and to help disciple them.
Yeah.
But we don't add to the church.
Yeah. Well, Paul says, I planted the seed, Apollos watered, but God gives the increase.
Exactly. And you're going to grow by speaking truth, and God will bring people to your church. Now, if you don't grow from 100 people to 10,000 people, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're doing fine. I submit that you can't pastor a 10,000 person church.
In fact, I think biblically it favors smaller churches.
Absolutely.
And if you have 10,000 people, you should probably have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 churches.
Exactly.
It should be set apart where you can actually minister and shepherd and disciple those people.
Those people should be playing a part in church. You know, everybody has a role to play. And when you get into a church where it's 10,000 plus, you can sneak in the back door, click your little phone, I was here today.
Check in.
Put my little tithe or whatever I'm going to give in the little thing and go home and go, done.
Yeah.
When in reality, you're part of the church. You should be helping with something.
Well, and in the same instance that you could sneak in, you could be willing to do ministry.
Yeah.
You could be willing to serve, but there could be no place for you to serve because there's so many people that they have to start rotation, and we're going to have 1,000 people on a volunteer staff, and we're going to rotate them through these things. And you say, well, maybe I should start another ministry through the church doing this. I said, well, we already have that.
Yeah.
Well, how do you serve then?
Exactly. And I'm not here to throw stones at big churches, but I think that big churches need to be aware that there comes a point in time where you may need to split, or you may need to do something different, or what is it that you're preaching?
Yeah.
And is what you're teaching a motivational speech? Is it a 5-minute after the band speech?
Yeah.
Are you doing what God wants to do? And I'm fine with there being a big church and being scriptural and everything working right, but there's just things we need to be aware of.
Well, and the next thing is in those large churches, when we talk about there's a problem with discipling that many people in one, then you come across, well, are the people then living the lives they should because they're not being discipled well? And I think back to 2 Corinthians chapter 3, you know, and Paul's talking about the accommodations, and it says some people needed letters of accommodation, but we don't need letters of accommodation because your life is an epistle. You're living the way you should. You don't need letters of recommendation that you're the person. It says here, ye are our epistle, written in our hearts, known and read of all men. For as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Christ, ministered by us, written not in ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. And really, if you have a flock that big, it's so hard to one-on-one minister and disciple those people directly.
You know, there's several different, I would call them services, I guess, that a church should be performing for the church.
Yeah.
Teaching, instruction, exhortation, verse by verse. There's so much that needs to be done. When you get into such a big place, you can't get everybody in there. You can't get them taught well.
Yeah.
And it's. I agree with you. I think there's a little bit of suffering. The bigger you get, the more you can fall through the cracks.
Well, and then now, coming back to our subject of deceit, now let's say you've got a 10,000 seat church. It's got 5 sermons a day, so 50,000 people in one town are going to this one sermon for this one guy,
right.
one source. How hard is it to lead them astray?
Exactly. And remember, no matter how good that pastor is, he's a man.
He's a man.
And I think that Satan attacks him even more fiercely because of his position.
Yeah.
And it's easier to fall from that position, you know.
And then here, this was an interesting article from Israel 365. And the headline reads, Rabbi Ariel, at this moment we do not have a red heifer suited for ceremony. So he's saying that all the 5 red heifers in Israel right now are not suited for the ceremony of the ashes of the red heifer.
Right.
So if you go to a church that has 25 minutes of worship music, 5 minutes or 10 minutes of devotion, and then 20 more minutes of worship music, and you're out of there, what did you get? You got the headline.
Yeah.
But if you go into discipleship, in my opinion, what this is a remedy of is discipleship, to the second paragraph of this article, it says, no, really, there is an ongoing discussion in the Temple Institute regarding their suitability. So they're not out. They're not saying that they're done. But if you only get the Reader's Digest version, which is usually a headlines, they're done. And that's where our news is right now.
Absolutely. And they take and they put the headline that will make you look twice. And a lot of times, it has nothing to do with the story.
The substance of the article never matches the headline. Yeah. It just like, Trump's speech the other day with Congress.
Yep.
First of all, that was a sad show.
Yes.
I think Trump's speech was excellent.
Excellent. Best speech I think he's given.
And the people in the audience, the people who are supposed to be full of decorum and honor and rules of law were atrocious.
Yes. You know, I couldn't get over the fact that as they introduced them, they said the gentleman from so-and-so, the gentlewoman from so-and-so, and gave them a badge of honor as they came in there. And these people wouldn't even get up and clap for a cancer survivor.
It's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Holding up signs and things. I just want to know where are we as a nation? I think while some people would say we're in a reprieve with Trump in office, but you know what? The devil's still hard at work on us.
You got it. You know, I've heard people say the same thing. You know, Trump in the office, we got more time. We can do whatever, you know. But I the last time he got into office, I felt like the end times sped up.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see more happen in the Middle East and the other countries around the world as we're running toward the end.
Well, you were just talking about Israel welcoming Russian military bases?
Yeah, there's an article here, and I haven't got to read it yet.
Yeah,
so
you never know what's in the meat of it.
And it says Israel welcomes Russian bases in Syria.
Wow.
And I can see that. I could see, because who took over Syria?
Yeah.
ISIS.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so Russia will, hopefully they think, going to establish some type of rule of law, but I think that ISIS is Russia's guard dog.
I think that's the little pit bull they send out to do a few things here and there. But look at this. Ask Israel right now. Well, are you reading Ezekiel 38? Because that just puts them how much closer?
Oh, absolutely. Because who's going to come? Who's the leader of this?
Rosh, the chief prince. And the interesting thing is that people are just now some people are just now saying, "Oh, Russia's in Syria." Okay, I'm going to tell you, I've been to the Golan Heights several times.
Yep.
I've been there with a great camera, nice zoom lens, and you can see Russian tanks on the Syrian border already. So don't think for a minute they're not already in there. But for Israel to welcome a military base, I mean, let's just move the entire Russian army into position.
I think that the government of Israel doesn't believe their Bible.
Yeah.
As much as Netanyahu reads it, and he'll say things like, "Oh, when something happens good," he'll say a Bible verse and say, "See, it's coming true." They really don't understand, and
No.
they're trying to work with, and I understand they're trying to work with neighbors and trying to make things more safe and secure.
Yeah.
But at what cost?
Then it becomes what's that when they come in peace and safety, sudden destruction.
Yes.
And Israel, you think over the years since 1948, they would understand that concessions in land, concessions in control of certain places like the Temple Mount,
Yep.
do not bring peace. And I think peace in this world is only won through strength.
Yes. I saw a girl on TikTok talking about how evil America was because we took things by force and stuff like that. And I said, I got news for you. Everything in the world has been taken by force.
Yeah.
If you want to, even though we purchased the land from Mexico,
Yeah.
and yes, it was after a war, but how many different civilizations warred over this piece of land that we bought from Mexico?
Yeah. Well, and now they're saying we didn't, or some people believe we didn't.
Yeah.
But there we go back to their algorithm.
Yep.
They watch one TikTok video for 3 minutes, and the next thing their algorithm is only TikTok videos of how Mexico deserves their land back.
The other thing that I've noticed that's new, and I shouldn't say new, but it's still really new, is if I type something into Google, I get an AI response now at the very top. Not just articles or pages that talk about this, but AI has gone out, scanned my question, and given me an answer.
Well, the interesting thing with that is that I've noticed this as well. When you Google it right now, the AI answer actually is pretty good.
Yeah.
You go through and you read some articles, you're like, okay, I can come to the same conclusion. So what happens when the controller of that AI says, okay, now I'm going to start putting deceit in there because now you've come to trust it.
So let's look at Google's AI. Remember when it came out? What was it, last year or the year before?
Yeah.
And everything had to be DEI.
Yes.
And so they said, show me pictures of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And here's these people that are Asian descent and African descent, all dressed up in these military. So the AI was programmed to put diversity in everything.
Yes.
At the cost of truth.
So, and I think this is exactly what Elon Musk was saying. I think it was him that said, whoever controls AI controls the world.
Yep.
And I could see that where what we could do now is we'll get the people to trust us.
Yep.
And then we'll start introducing what we want them to know. And I think through our social media algorithms, I think through our Google responses on AI, I think this is how the deceit will come.
Yep.
And I think that even some of the elect, while we're here before the rapture, will be deceived by the things we see there. Now, I'm not saying that we'll be deceived to the beast, to take the mark of the beast or anything like that, but we'll be deceived thinking, wow, Israel really is the aggressor, or this really is a bad thing, or when it's really the opposite of that.
Yeah, and there's such an attack on Israel, and I've heard over and over that Israel's the head of everything evil in this world, and they're the ones that own everything, and I look at George Soros, who's a Jew in name only, doesn't care anything for the Jewish people, and his son, who's even worse than him. The guy that actually owns BlackRock, or the head of BlackRock, is Jewish.
Yeah.
But I don't think that these Jews go back to the land of Israel.
No.
They're still living in 8 miles.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten anything from this.
No.
And I think that is Satan's propaganda against Israel. And you look at where it says in Revelation, when the child was born, the dragon was there to devour the child.
Yeah.
And his whole purpose has been to kill the Messiah, kill him, have him die the wrong way, to do the wrong thing. And he's been there this whole time, and he's there now.
Well, he's tried to pollute the bloodline throughout history.
Absolutely.
And it didn't work.
Yep.
But he has tried. And these are the things that we see today. And when we talk about Israel, I want people to be very clear that I don't agree 100% with everything the Israeli government does.
Right.
Please don't think that for a moment. But it says that I'll bless them that bless thee, and I'll curse them that curse thee. So I always want the best for Israel as a people.
Exactly. It says one day they're going to wake up and realize that they crucified their Messiah.
Yeah.
And they're going to repent and come to him. And this is because of the tribulation.
Yeah.
Not anything else.
Well, I mean, and to understand this, the same thing we're talking about, deceit, what you read, what you take in. If you see a Bible apologist go up and talk to an Orthodox Jew on the street, I've seen this several times. They read Isaiah 53 to him.
Yes.
They say, wow, that must be from the New Testament. That's talking about Jesus. You say,
Right.
no, it's in your Bible.
Yep.
So what the rabbis are saying, no, skip that. You won't be able to understand that, so you need to skip over that.
Yep.
And you need to skip over Song of Songs because that's pornographic. And
Yep.
really it's just talking about a real relationship, what
And
it should look like.
the book of Daniel.
Yes.
Especially Daniel 9.
Yes.
They will tell them this is something you can easily be deceived about and restrict it.
Well, and that points straight back. There's another religion that it used to be, if you were one of these people and you had a Bible in your house, you were anathema.
Yes.
And that's Catholicism.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see what the control of information will do. And as we as a people have migrated to social media and technology and Google and online media sources, we can see how the control of that will deceive even the very elect.
Absolutely. And there's a new thing that's coming out, and I always say new, but I'm sure it's been around a little bit, is the AI Bible.
Yeah.
And there is so much garbage in that. And, one of the things I do is I do have a tablet, and I like to use a Bible app, if you will, but I'm always afraid that they're going to change it. So I've got a bunch of print Bibles that they can't change because you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Well, they could subtly replace any word they wanted to. They can't replace a word in my paper Bible.
Right.
And my paper Bible gives the gospel clearly.
They already took our manuscripts, the traditional text that we've used since 400 AD, and replaced it with one that they found somewhere in a monastery or whatever.
In a trash can.
And then in the 1880s, we started to use that. And it's amazing when you read that critical text, how much it takes the miraculous out of the Bible.
Yeah.
Miraculous things are written out of the Bible as everyday things. It's
and
amazing.
it questions the very deity of Christ in several places.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us, and I hope that you're daily reading your Bible and studying it, because the gospel of Jesus Christ, that he was born of a virgin, that he lived a sinless life, that he paid the debt that we could not pay, and that he's resurrected again, sitting at the Father's right hand, waiting to come take his church home. I hope you believe that. I hope that you'll place your faith in Jesus. We'll see you next week.